Okay, and that piece of freestyle script, you see its middle center grip lines up with the middle and the center of that top box. Finally, underneath, we have the same style as this. We have the Swiss 721 BDOULBT, and that's going to be single line text justified right here, bottom center at that intersection, with our next little piece of text. All right, and there we go. Bakersfield College, justified top center to that point. Industrial Technology and Engineering, justified bottom center to that point. And serving our community since 1913, justified middle center to the middle center. Okay, now look, later on we can turn off or get rid of or erase those construction lines. I just use them to get the text in the right place. Okay, so not part of the drawing, just there to help us for a little while. Let's move into our next layer of boxes. It's these skinny ones here. Okay, if we look at the instructions, they tell us that these are Swiss 721 BT, 1/4 inch tall, middle center. We have one that says area map, degrees and certificates, and contact info. All right, 1/4 inch, Swiss 721, middle center. All right, so again, single line text, justify, middle center. The midpoint is going to be lined up with the middle of that line and the middle of that line, and you can see what I'm doing is I'm tracking to this point. The height is 0.25, the angle is 0, and I am going to type area map. Now, if you look at that, you probably saw I never switched my text over, right? So make sure you got the right text. There we go, Swiss 721 bold text. All right, so we're going to have area map, degrees and certificates, and contact info in these three boxes, all middle center justified with the midpoint on the top and side lines. All right, just like that. Contact info. Contact info is going to be your name, so I know who drew the drawing, and it's going to be the school's address as well as email address. Okay, so what we'll do is we will draw some construction lines on here to help us line up our text. This is the Poor Richard font. The name is 0.5 inches, half an inch. All the other info is 1/4 of an inch. And the alignment is fit. So notice how your name, the address, Bakersfield, California, the phone number, the email address, how they're all the same width, and they start at the edge here and stop at the edge here. Well, you can only do that with fit text, right? So once we have our construction lines in, I'll do a couple of 0.5 offsets. Half of an inch from here to here and here to here. And then I'll do a bunch of 1/4 inch offsets because the smaller text is 1/4 inch. Okay, and this sets us up to make that fit text. So back to text, we'll set it for Poor Richard. Single line text, justify, fit. We're fitting it from that point there to this point here. The height, 0.5. And then our typing. And our typing is your name. Okay. And then we skip a full space. And then the next one is the school's address. And then we have the email address, just like our example shows. So you don't have to feel like you're putting your personal information out there. And again, we see how everything lines up with this line on the left side and that line on the right side, because all this text has fit points. These are fit points from those two edges. Okay, and remember, at some point we're going to turn off or delete our construction lines because they're not part of the drawing, they're just there to help us line things up. The next box is going to have a paragraph of information. So let's put some lines from the start points on those fillets to show us where we're working. We're working inside the box here. Okay, this is the only box where we're going to be using multi-line text. And the reason, if you look closely, it's because we have a bulleted list. We have a list of the classes. There are bullets in front of each one. And this wouldn't be possible really with single line text. So what do we have in the box here? Well, we have some text. It's Roman S. It's 0.125 for big stuff and 0.094 for the little stuff. And the alignment is top left. So it'll be lined up right up here in the corner of that box. All right, so to set it up, we'll go to the Roman S. And my strategy for setting this box up would be use multi-line text and then just type everything out. Just type everything out. Okay, so what are we typing exactly? Well, this is an advertisement for my program, right? So we're going to talk about the program. We're going to say that this is the Associate of Science degree, industrial drawing option for industrial technology, and then we're going to go through and we're going to be listing INDR, well, required classes, we have INDR B12, and the title of that class is Introduction to Drafting and CAD, and it is 3 units. Okay, now obviously this is big text, right? So at some point, after you put a little bit of text in here, let's go in and let's make it small. So we highlight our text, we go to the size, 0.094. Okay. Now I know not all the text is 0.094. Some of it is bigger, 0.125. But to get it set up, do everything at the smaller size. Okay, so we have Introduction to Drafting in CAD, 3 units. We have INDR B20A. Intermediate. Computer aided drafting and design. Also 3 units. Okay, and so on and so on and so on until we have typed out everything that's supposed to be in that box. Now I know the copy quality is not very good over here. Okay, so what I did is on the next page in the course pack, I have laid out exactly what it should look like in a way you can read it, okay? So required classes, Industrial Drawing B12, Industrial Drawing 20A, 20B, okay? And you go through and set it up exactly like it looks here. So a couple things I'd like to point out. Okay, some of these titles for these classes are too long to fit on one line. Civil Drafting and Geographic Information Systems. See how systems is down here? And it's actually lined up underneath the word civil. And then notice over here that one of the requirements for the degree is either manufacturing B1AB or would be 2, right? It says or. So don't have 2 bullets here because there's one class that has to be chosen and it could be either one. Okay, and then we leave a space and then we have our elective classes for people that don't have 60 units at graduation time. Engineering Graphics, Engineering B24, Welding B1A, Welding B1B. Notice how cutting, again, is on the line below introduction oxyacetylene welding, and right, so it needs to be underlined underneath the I, directly underneath, and not over here. And I'm telling you that because sometimes the line wrap in AutoCAD is just as bad as the line wrapping in other programs like Microsoft Word. So, for example, you're going to get to the point where you're going to type in INDR B52, and it is civil drafting and geographic information systems, GIS. Okay, 3 units. Now it did wrap 3 units down to the next line, but that's not the way it's supposed to look. It's supposed to look a little like this. So geographic information and then systems is on the next line. Okay, so what you're going to do is go to systems and hit enter. Right, it's on the next line. And then you can tab it over so it's lined up. Now, when all this is done, you can go in and make some changes. So, like, what changes are we talking about? Well, looks like we should have a full space underneath associate science degree, industrial technology, industrial drawing option, and required classes, right? So if you need full spaces, put full spaces. And then some of these things have to be bigger. Some of these things have larger text. So it's not the 0.094 anymore, it's the 0.125. And I can make some of the text one size and the other text a different size. We'll make that the 0.125. Okay? So big text, little text. And then our last step would be to bullet your text. So take your items, go to bullets, bulleted. Now something weird happened here. Do you see it? How it took systems and pulled it back and added a bullet. So there's a way to fix that. Let's talk about the way to fix it. To get rid of the bullet, you're going to backspace, bang, and then hit the tab until you're lined back up. Okay, and I know that sounds like a pain, but you know what? The truth is that's the exact same thing you have to do in Microsoft Word. So I don't know if AutoCAD's just as dumb as Microsoft Word, or if the person who programmed it decided, I better make this behave exactly like Microsoft Word, but it's the same method for getting those tabs to work and to line up once you start bulleting things, okay? All right, looks like I might have to do a little bit of addition on here. It does say industrial technology, industrial drawing option. Right, so when we're all done, we're going to have a list of the required and elective classes that go along with this degree. Now, everything will fit. Everything will fit if you do what I asked you to do, which was to make everything the 0.094 size. And then when you were done, to go back and make the other text the 0.125. All right, so as long as you do that, there's plenty of room for everything. Geographic information systems is lined up with civil drafting. We're going to get rid of the extra bullet because it's either manufacturing B108 or B2, wood for wood. Make sure the or is there. Okay, and then for our elective classes, again, make sure that cutting is on a second line, lined up with the beginning after the and sign. Okay, so that's a lot of typing, okay? And I know it's tedious. Do yourself a favor. Pay close attention, and when you're done, spell check it, okay? Spell check the drawing to make sure everything you have done is spelled correctly. The last component is this area map. and we want to talk about maps real briefly. Okay, why do we need a map on an advertisement or a poster? Well, we know maps that are drawings that show part of the Earth's surface, and there's a bunch of different kinds of maps, a wide variety of maps available. Okay, here's a map from Google Earth, right? It shows the whole country, it shows the land, the water, and the cities. This map is supposed to be to scale. Okay, and then here's a close-up in Google Earth. It shows the neighborhood around Bakersfield College. It shows 178. Panorama shows the major areas and major streets. And of course, in Google Earth, you can zoom in and see every single street, right? So this is something we want to include on our map. We'd like to include a map that shows where the campus is. Okay, so let me rotate this so you can see a little bit better. Now, check it out. It's not a perfectly to scale map. It's not super detailed. It has enough information so that somebody who is not really familiar with the area would know where the BC campus was with a little bit of help, right? We're showing them where the 178 is, and the Mount Vernon, and Columbus, and Panorama. And if you know where those main streets are, you can find them. We assume you can find the BC campus. All right, so the kind of map we're talking about is called a vicinity map. It is not every detail in every street because it doesn't have to be. Okay. Maps are often required in sets of drawings, especially if these drawings are for architectural purposes or construction or civil engineering or surveying. Okay, so take a look here. Remember this drawing I showed you when we talked about text? Here is the site where the construction is going to take place. Look at the map up here. You see they're showing where the building site is located. So including a map in a set of drawings is not such a far-fetched idea. Okay, and we're going to include something called a vicinity map, which again, it doesn't have to be a perfect to scale map. It's a map that gives you an idea where the project is located. Okay, the main idea about vicinity maps are that they are simplified maps. They don't show every detail. And they also don't really have to be to scale. They just give you a rough idea of how to get somewhere. Okay, so here's an example of a vicinity map. This is where is Indiana University. Okay, so here's the campus. And check it out. Here is Route 930 and I-69. Shows you the major streets around the campus. And chances are it's not perfectly to scale because it doesn't have to be. Okay. It gives a quick idea of how to get to where you want to go. That's a vicinity map. Okay, and one of the elements on these maps that we see, most maps contain something called a north arrow. Our map contains a north arrow too. So our job is to make a vicinity map of the area around the campus and to include a north arrow. North arrows can look like whatever you want. In fact, you can make yours as simple or as complicated as you want. This is your personal signature on this project. This is a north arrow. It has an N and it has a point, right? And everything else is gravy. You see, all of these are north arrows and they are all nice and acceptable. Some of them show all four cardinal directions and some of them only show north. And to be honest with you, north arrows come in a wide variety of shapes and styles. And as long as it's got something that's pointy and an N somewhere, well, those are the minimum requirements for a north arrow. And I'll be happy with whatever you come up with. So we'll have a vicinity map that shows some major streets around the campus, and we will have a north arrow. How are we going to do this in AutoCAD? Well, this could be your guide. To be totally honest, this can be our guide for setting up our vicinity map. We draw 178, Columbus, Union, Mount Vernon, and Panorama. And while some of these lines are straight, others are a little bit curved, right? So we're going to talk about making some curved lines. And then that north arrow, well, that north arrow could be whatever you want it to be. In fact, one of the layers that you set up, or one of the text styles that you set up, is for you to pick a font for your north arrow. Okay, so how do we draw Panorama since it's curvy? How do we draw 178 since it's curvy? We'll go to my map layer. You might remember when we talked about drawing tools that there are some tools over here hidden under the draw panel. One of them is called spline. Click, 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 click. See, this is a spline. And splines make non-circular arcs and curves. So every time we click, we get a little control point, and those control points allow us to go in and refine the spline until it's exactly what we want. So 178 is a little twisty-turvy, a little curvy. That's fine. We can go in there and set it up. And then some of the streets are straight, like Mount Vernon and Columbus, right? And Union. And honestly, like I said, this is not a 2-scale map. We're not working for Google Maps. We're just trying to produce something that gives someone a rough idea of where the campus is in relation to some major roads and highways. I would kind of rough in the streets. I might do a little offset, maybe a couple hundredths, no, maybe 5,000. So offset 0.005, and 2 lines side by side, too small. Offset 0.01, too small. Offset 0.05. There we go. Okay, because we want it to look like a road. Roads have 2 sides, left side and the right side, right? And you can go in there and set up some double lines for your roads. If you're feeling like an all-star, we can go in and do a little trimming and clean it up so we don't have these crossing intersections. Okay, so this is our main idea on how to create our map for this vicinity map. We'll add roads, we'll add names on the roads. If you look at the instructions, the text is Roman S, it's 0.094 for a height. The alignment is, if they're straight vertical or horizontal, make them straight vertical or horizontal. If they're on an angle, use whatever angle you want. Okay? When you're done, you got a map with the address. BC is called out, north arrow. Take a look at my drawing, because there's a couple of more elements that I'd like you to include. One of those elements is where the BC campus is. I'd like you to make it stand out a little bit. So add a gradient hatch to the BC campus. Okay, it can be any 2 colors you want, but I want it to stand out from everything else around it. And then on the north arrow, include some kind of vector hatch, a line hatch, anyone you want, to fill in your arrowhead. Okay, and then you get to pick the font to use for the end, and then our finished drawing looks like this when our line weight is turned on. Okay, so again, this is a big assignment. There are a lot of parts to it. It's worth a lot of points though. When it's done, no one's going to say that you don't know how to place and justify text. Remember the text up here, single line. The text in these boxes, single line. The text in the map area, single line. The text over here, single line. The only double line, multi-line text is the text in the box here in the center because of the special effects we want to add with the bullets. Okay, so when all is done, turn on your line weight. When you submit this, we'll be giving you some feedback on it, and as long as we follow the instructions and we have our layers and our text tiles set up correctly, we should be good to go. Remember, you are not going to turn in the drawing with the construction lines on it. Those are there to help you out if you want to use them so that things line up correctly.